started. It's so very good to see all of you and your smiling faces out there. Howdy, howdy, and welcome to this orientation. So I just want to welcome you all to the orientation to the November event, which we are calling Teaching and Learning in a Texas Pathways Framework. We could not be any more proud or thankful that together we have been working with all the community colleges across the state to improve the lives of Texans, both of our families, our friends, our neighbors, and the power of higher education to improve upward social and economic mobility. So together over these past years, we have been scaling clear pathways and providing comprehensive support and improving teaching and learning. And through that work, our Texas Pathways over these past 5 years has made significant impact on institutional measures of success. So we have reason. So if any other state asks you, Texas has reason and justification for our Texas swagger, and we're going to celebrate that at our event in November. So if you go to the next slide, just want to say howdy and welcome to the orientation. Welcome to the Pathways Institute number 5. You'll be hearing today from me, Cynthia Farrell, as well as Dr. Christine Bailey and from Dr. Martha Ellis. And here's what we're going to cover in today's orientation. After I give a few comments of welcome, then we will overview the Pathways Institute and what we'll be doing when we're together in Dallas. We will also overview the advanced work that you and your team will be doing in preparation for the Institute. And we'll provide time at the end for any questions that you might have. So we want to make sure that we carve just a little bit of time to express our gratitude for some folks and some organizations just before we get started. So you know that at this institute, those of you who have been coming to institutes over the last 5 years, you know this ain't our first rodeo, and we're going to do things very similar to the way we've done them in the past. You can plan on working hard and playing hard while we're together in celebration and in commitment to our continued improved Texas size success. And we have some funding partners who've made that all possible over the years. And I just wanted to recognize their commitment to your work. They're committed to and believe in the power of community colleges for improving the lives of Texans, and they continue to be committed to you. And so I want to recognize that because of these funders, there is no participation fee whatsoever that community colleges pay to be a part of this work, for you to have a center that serves you. There is also benefits that come from these funders believing in you, that you have 17 members that come to an institute without registration fees and even pay for your hotel room so you can come continuously together and to share with one another. Also, your CEOs and trustees come together for the Board of Trustees Institute, and you're provided the coaching, the expert coaching that you get both at the institutes and in site visits. So I just wanted to recognize that all of that takes funding, and these folks believe in your work and continue to fund this work. So as we jump into this, I also want to continue my gratitude to this fabulous Texas Success Center team that you see very often. The reason you have this world-class kind of support is because you have these folks who are working hard, both behind the scenes and on stage. So thank you so very much, Texas Success Center team. I also want to recognize some consultants that are doing some heavy lift brain power work with us. So thank you very much to our consultants who help us both with research and in practice. And then lastly, of course, our amazing set of coaches that work with you. You see their faces here and on the call. Thank you so very much for being dedicated to this work and helping us bring this quality support for our community colleges. So I'm going to jump right in and just reiterate our Pathways framework continues to be, as it has been, fundamentally grounded in the strategy's design principles. That redesign must attend to an entire student's experience, not just one segment of it. So we will always continue to talk about our framework as being systemic. Secondly, our Pathways work is not the next in a long line of initiatives, but we have agreed together that this would be an enduring framework that unifies a variety of reform elements. And then lastly, our framework continues to start with the students' end goal in mind, that they want good careers and they want opportunities to come back for further education. And then so we backwards map to them regardless of where they come from. So as they connect, enter, progress, and succeed, we know that then we will be able to connect them to their careers. So this institute in particular is focusing on ensuring students are learning, our fourth pillar. So on the next slide, you'll see we continue to be committed to the same 4 pillars we have since the beginning. Mapping pathways to student end goals, helping students choose and enter a program pathway, keeping students on a path. And then for this one in particular, we will be spotlighting ensuring students are learning. So you'll see on this next slide, the ensuring students are learning. This should be familiar to you from the scale of adoption assessment. Continue to focus on program learning outcomes and active learning, and also that we will have effective assessment of our educational practices. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Bailey to continue our overview of the Pathways Institute.
Thanks, Cynthia. Welcome, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you here with us today as we prepare for another great institute in Dallas. As Cynthia mentioned, we're focusing on the essential practices relating to Pillar 4, and our theme is teaching and learning in a Texas Pathways framework. So at this institute, we will analyze institutional, quantitative, and qualitative data during our team strategy time to gain insights into existing teaching and learning practices and their differential impact on student outcomes. So we'll have a packet of advanced work that we are requesting for the Institute, which I'm going to explain today so that you can get the most out of this time. And then I'm excited to introduce our national experts who will join us at the event. And our hope is that you may reflect as a team on how their insights and expertise may inform your improvement of instructional programs within your whole college pathways redesign efforts. And participants will engage with fellow Texas Community College colleagues from across the state in a peer learning network designed for sharing and learning of this successful scaling of essential practices associated with teaching and learning. And then once again, the Institute will culminate with the development of the action plan. This is something that each college has been working on, and we add to it and revise it, and we'll be revising it and focusing on improving teaching and learning practices, targeting improved student outcomes, specifically for our Black students, our Latino students, and our low-income students. So as in years past, we will be able to use our grant funding to support 7 individuals who are best suited for this event. And we know that some of our larger colleges also like to bring additional folks from across their system, and that is fine. Those additional members can join us at the college's expense. And we've listed our recommendation of roles that you would consider. As usual, it's really critical for our CEOs and chancellors to join us because they support this work and help us fulfill our action plans, and our chief academic officers and pathways leads provide a really important continuity from institute to institute. And since this one is focusing on teaching and learning, we're going to ask you to consider bringing your academic chairs and transfer leads, as well as CTE or adult and continuing education lead. And then we have some optional folks as well. So please review this with your pathways team at your site, and please share this information from today so that we can get them registered. So registration will open next Wednesday on the 7th, and our fabulous program director, Sway Youngston, does a lot of our logistical planning, and will send an email with a link to a document that will provide your discount code that is specific to your college, which can be used for your 7 team members. So using this discount code, we will waive the registration fee as well as the hotel expense for these 7 for the nights of Monday, November the 14th and Tuesday, November the 15th. And the cost of the pre-institutes are also covered by the discount code. And we know that some of you are traveling a long distance, perhaps flying in or driving a long distance, and that you might want to make arrangements to come in the night before on Sunday. This additional night needs to be covered by the college. And we are excited to be back at the Sheraton Dallas. Please note that we've made a change in the room reservation process. So at the end of your reservation, you're going to be provided a link from the portal to go directly to the hotel site where you can make your own reservations at our discounted room rate. If you want to bring additional team members beyond the 7, they'll have the opportunity to pay for their registration fee in the registration portal through PayPal, and then pay for their hotel on site when they check out. So we're going to keep this registration link live through November the 14th, but I encourage you to finalize your team registration and your hotel arrangements by October the 13th. So this time together is, as a learning community, is so precious, and we don't take it for granted that many of you are going to be leaving your college campus during a really important time. And so we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to have dedicated time with your Pathways coach during the Institute, in addition to the team time. We can see from our external evaluation how important the coaching is and how that really helps our colleges to implement the Pathways strategy at their campus. So our coaches will be reaching out to each of their college teams this leading up to the Institute. Please connect with them, make sure that you've got some extra time with them during the Institute. I recommend a 1-hour meeting either during breakfast or after the evening has concluded. And I've listed a couple priority discussion topics that you might want to consider, including the progress that you've made since the last Institute. You might want to look at those action plans and see what's worked for you, what are some of the barriers that you're facing, and use that thought partnership. And you might want to share your reflections that you've gained from our advanced work. So I also want to take the opportunity to say hello to our coaches and to let you know that we are so looking forward to our time together with you in Dallas. Thanks again for joining us and for all the work that you do to support our colleges. So,
Dr. Bailey,
yes, ma'am.
there's a relevant question in the chat box, so I'm going to ask it. I think this is a great time for you to address it. So one of our participants asks whether or not the intention then is to have the coach coordinate travel for the college team, and then who at the college might approve the additional Sunday night stay for the coach.
So the college coordinates their own college team travel. I would refer to the Pathways lead to determine the best way to approve that additional night, who will attend the institutions, the pre-institutes, and who might have that extra night paid for by the college. Thank you for bringing that up. So I'm excited to share with you some of the professional development opportunities that will be offered at the Institute. And I want to start by highlighting our featured speakers. So for our opening plenary, we will have Dr. Tia Brown-McNair join us. Dr. McNair is the Vice President in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Student Success at the Association of American Colleges and Universities in Washington, D.C. Dr. McNair will frame our institute with a focus on accelerating broad-scale innovation to advance evidence-based educational strategies that prioritize the creation of equity-conscious pathways to ensure that students are learning. So her discussion is going to highlight key principles outlined in the book From Equity Talk to Equity Walk, which she co-authored, and from a multi-year national project with 20 community colleges. Participants will engage with practical guidance on how to design and implement effective campus change strategies that will support sustained transformation. And then on day 2, we invite our college presidents and chancellors into a leadership workshop led by Josh Weiner, who is the executive director of the College Excellence Program at the Aspen Institute. And our CEOs know him very well. He's been to many of our institutes, and they value this time together as a cohort. So please let them know that he will be once again joining us in Dallas. And then on our last day, Dr. Luis Panwan will provide our closing plenary. Dr. Panwan is an associate professor at Texas A&M University, where he serves as a research director for the research project entitled Investing in Diversity, Equity, Access, and Learning. So Dr. Panwan will address and examine how leaders may improve instructional practices to create pathways which provide student-centered classroom environments that contributes to diverse students' aspirations, achievement, and attainment outcomes. So that's a very fast overview of our speakers. You can learn more about them and read their bios on our Pathways Institute website. I'd love for you to share with your team members information regarding our pre-institutes on November 14th. Our first pre-institute is Math Pathways and Co-Requisite Instruction, Next Steps for Equitable Student Access and Success. And this session will be led by our friends at the Charles A. Dana Center at the University of Texas at Austin. And in this workshop, participants will explore tools and resources for the continuous improvement of co-requisite courses. And attendees will be able to select specific pedagogical practices for a deeper dive. So some of the topics include funds of knowledge that students bring to their learning, the experiential lenses that instructors may bring to their teaching and to their classroom, how to create a sense of belonging, implementing co-requisites and pathways with fidelity, and effective pedagogy. Attendees will also explore which co-requisite models show the most promise and how to apply an evidence-based approach to gauging student learning. This session is open to all, but I would encourage college leadership, academic officers to join us, as well as math and English faculty and content experts, instructional designers, advisors, professional development officers, directors of learning resources, and chief diversity and inclusion officers to attend this institute. And then our second one is the Ability to Benefit workshop, which will be led by Dr. Tamara Clunas and Michelle Lamons from Amarillo College. So as a recent Texas Success Center Research Fellow, Michelle Lamons has recently concluded a 2-year research project and will share her findings regarding considerations for community colleges to create and implement ability to benefit models to support accelerating learning pathways. The goal of this workshop is to incubate a new community of practice. So they'll be meeting several times throughout next year in order to build a real-time, hands-on, statewide ability to benefit toolkit, one that can be used back at your campus for your students. And this session is also open to all attendees. I would encourage college leadership, academic officers, financial aid directors, registrar officers, AEL officers, career navigators, CTE, and iBest or support instructors to consider attending this workshop. And then finally, we have our third workshop, Implementing and Scaling 8-Week Courses for Pathways Transformation. This is our only workshop that is by invitation only. And this session is led by our friends at Odessa College, Grayson College, and Kilgore College. So this workshop is the culmination of a year-long learning series designed to support 12 Texas colleges in implementing and scaling 8-week courses as a catalyst for institutional transformation. And this session will focus on promising practices and replicable practices among the participating colleges. And I would recommend bringing maybe 3 or 4, but no more than 5 of your college implementation team to come to this session to share lessons learned and the innovations that are underway at your campus. So we're going to ask each participating campus to prepare a capstone presentation to showcase the progress that you've made to date at your institution, along with next steps. And then the Leader College will assist you in folding in your next steps into your action plan. So let me move on to our agenda. This is a very quick high-level overview, and this information is also on our website. This will look familiar to you with the pre-institutes being hosted Monday morning at 11 a.m. And then we'll have lunch provided to all attendees that are attending this workshop. So we'll need both the presenters and the attendees to register for these workshops so that we can make sure we have an accurate lunch count. And then for those not joining the pre-institutes, we welcome you at 2 o'clock for our opening plenary session. And then we're going to go right to team strategy time to dig into data. And then afterwards, we're going to feature the dance team of Tarrant County Community College at the reception. And we're going to have a Texas celebration dance entitled Dances Representing Texas. So we're excited. This is going to be new for us and I think super fun. And I'd like to extend a personal invitation to each of you for this Texas celebration. We are proud to be celebrating our 5th anniversary along with you and the commitment that your community college has made to the Texas Pathways strategy for institutional transformation. And as Cynthia mentioned, we can see this impact of your work already in the data with reductions in institutional performance gaps across 7 early momentum metrics. So this time together at our institutes really help us to learn from each other and accelerate our progress, and we're so excited about the future, and we'll want to share more about our future plans with you. But just to know, this is a themed party. We encourage cowboy boots and hats, and for you to wear your spirit wear that reflects your Texas pride, your college pride, and the pride that you have in your students. And then feel free to plan to meet with your coach or your teammates after this Texas celebration. So on day 2, we're going to have a hearty breakfast because we have a very busy day with 2 concurrent sessions and 2 team strategy times. And then we'll host our annual awards luncheon and set aside some networking time at our Birds of a Feather session. So as a reminder, please do share the Leadership Roundtable information with your CEO. And this is a great time to consider planning time to meet with your coach, either for breakfast or in the early afternoon before dinner. And then on the last day, we will move into team strategy time number 4 after breakfast, and then conclude the event with Dr. Panwan's closing. So this is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. This is a closing that you won't want to miss. So we're ending the day early so that you can make your arrangements to stay with us through the end and then travel home safely. We also enjoy learning from each other. So as you are probably well aware that we will have a call for proposals, and we hope that you will consider featuring all of the great work happening at your campus that's related to pillar number 4. So we have 5 key topics that we want to share with you. The first is equitable teaching and learning practices. So this session track will emphasize equitable teaching and learning approaches that incorporate students' assets and cultural values. And then the second track is experiential learning that highlights promising practices in applied student learning and highlights how colleges systematically embed opportunities to apply and deepen knowledge and skills into academic and workforce programs. And then the third topic is alignment and assessment of program learning outcomes. This track focuses on understanding how colleges determine program learning outcomes that describe what students need to know to be able to do upon program completion, and how the program learning outcomes are assessed for institutional improvement. And then in our fourth track, we examine institutional practices which support continuous improvement in teaching and learning, including connection to the assessment of quantitative and qualitative data on student learning, with efforts to improve teaching and learning through program review, professional development, and other intentional institutional efforts. And then finally, we want to focus on college readiness. So this track will feature high impact practices that enable students to be prepared for college level work and or complete college level coursework within the first year. So the application window will close on September 26th. And I do want to bring your attention to the fact that we are shifting the way that we host these sessions in order to model active learning, and we request that you develop high engagement, low technology presentations. So we will not provide audio and video functionality within the rooms, but we will have Wi-Fi. So if you want to, you may utilize technology in your presentations, and attendees may download the presentation materials from our website. And let's look into advanced work. So we've covered all the information relating to logistics and registration. Christina, is there anything specific to registration or the event that we want to cover before I shift to advanced work?
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. We've covered all the questions in the chat. We will go ahead and continue to update the website with useful information. So thank you for the suggestions that are in there. But if there are any other questions right now, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask Dr. Bailey before we move on to the discussion of the advanced work.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. But yes, please do feel free to put questions in the chat. So our team has selected several important pre-readings relating to Pillar 4 and guided pathways implementation more broadly. This first report, Progress Scaling Texas Pathways, Ensuring Students Are Learning, features the promising practices of our Texas colleges. And you may recall in the spring of 2021, our Texas colleges self-assessed their progress in scaling the essential practices of the Texas Pathways strategy by completing the Scale of Adoption assessment. And so this report is published by the Texas Success Center and co-authored by Dr. Christina Flores, and it highlights specific strategies being implemented in Texas to scale Pillar 4 to a broader group of students. It is a wonderful new resource that we're so happy to share with you. Our second report is Path to Success, How Community Colleges Are Strengthening Guided Pathways to Ensure that Students Are Learning. This resource is published by the Association of American Colleges and Universities, and it also focuses on Pillar 4, but provides a national perspective, highlighting case studies to share best practices in implementation. So that is also a really great resource and read, and there's several Texas colleges featured in this report. Our third report is How to Achieve More Equitable Community College Outcomes, published by the Community College Research Center at Columbia University. And this resource helps us to understand how the guided pathways movement has changed over the past 6 years. And it provides a focus for the field to help us consider how we should be thinking about the pathways movement and pathways implementation. So I encourage you to read that one. And then lastly, we want to highlight resources provided by the Center for Community College Student Engagement relating to Pillar 4. They've published a playbook that really gives voice to what faculty are saying about what's happening at their college and how they're implementing the essential practices relating to Pillar 4. And it highlights recent innovations in teaching practices. So at the end of this playbook, there's also additional resources which promote equity-minded, asset-based teaching, which I can also recommend. And then there's one data element that we would like each college to collect. This is the completion of 0 credit hours in the fall of 2021. So we're going to ask you to pull disaggregated data by race, ethnicity, and gender. And this is intended to be a very quick data pull, a very simple assignment. And so simple documentation is completely appropriate. You can submit this by Excel spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint graphic is fine. I've created this sample PowerPoint graphic to just kind of show you what we're hoping to see when you turn this in. And this data point will be used during our team strategy time. So I'm going to ask you to submit it through the Texas Success Center's Document Center so that we may share it with your Pathways coach. And you may want to also bring a copy to distribute to your leadership team members during this team strategy time. And I want to emphasize how seriously we take our data requests and how we consider your college's privacy. This is a data request that will not be made public. It is for the use of your team and for the use of your college to support your action plans. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. And then, as this institute focuses on teaching and learning, we want to hear from the students and the faculty at your campus. So we are going to ask each college to conduct one student focus group and 1 or 2 faculty focus groups. So the objectives of the student focus group are to understand the learning experiences of the students at your campus, to understand what motivates your students to engage in their learning, to understand how faculty and peer relationships impact student learning, and to understand what motivates students to engage in academic supports and what kind of barriers hinder their access to academic support services. And then the objectives for the faculty focus groups are to learn what practices, systems, and classroom strategies promote effective teaching and learning, and to understand the innovative practices that faculty are utilizing in their class to promote learning. So we'll go through each of these opportunities. For the student focus group, we are going to ask each college to invite a mix of students within academic transfer programs and workforce programs. We would like for you to recruit a purposeful sample of students from multiple instructors. So please don't simply recruit students from a single CTE program or a single core academic course. The goal really is to gather insights from as broad and diverse group of student voices as possible. And doing so is going to require intentionality in your recruiting process and ensuring a demographically diverse sample of students is recruited. And then we're going to ask each college to conduct a faculty focus group that includes a mix of faculty that are teaching academic courses as well as workforce programs, faculty and workforce programs. Again, we want as many perspectives to be pulled from these focus groups. So we want to be intentional with recruiting both full-time and adjunct faculty, and to ensure a demographically diverse sample of faculty are recruited. Okay, so those first two are required for advanced work. And then we have a third that we highly recommend. And this third focus group is to be conducted on faculty that are specific to co-requisite instruction. So we would ask you to recruit a mix of math and English faculty, full-time and adjunct, and a demographically diverse sample of faculty for this group as well. So this third focus group really is recommended, highly recommended for colleges that are in cadres 1+ and 1, and then optional for colleges that are in cadres 2 and 3. So please remember that your coach is an invaluable resource for you as you're thinking through this. And if you need assistance thinking about strategies for recruiting participants or how to get the most value out of this assignment, your coach can assist you in that. So next week on Wednesday, we're going to post our focus group package on our website, and we'll email the resources to you. So for the student focus group, that package will include a student focus group discussion guide, which includes tips for hosting the focus group, as well as the questions that we want you to ask students relating to their student learning. And then we've also created a report template for you to complete and submit before the Institute. We've provided a student consent form as well as a profile sheet for students for your use. And then for the faculty focus groups, we've prepared a faculty focus group discussion guide with that can be used for both focus groups and has 2 sets of questions, one for the general faculty and one for the co-requisite faculty. And then we have 2 unique report templates, depending on whether you're going to do 1 or 2 focus groups. And finally, a faculty consent form. So as I mentioned, there's 3 sets of focus group questions, and I've done a little bit of color coding to make sure that it's easy. For the first document, that's the student focus group, it's color coded in blue to show that it's required, as well as the second document, which is the faculty focus group that includes academic and workforce faculty. And then the third one is color coded in green, and that is the optional third focus group. So I would plan for a 60 to 90-minute focus group to provide the time to go through each question, to make sure you ask each question, keeping in mind not every single participant needs to answer each question. And so in thinking about the project management aspect for this request, I'm going to encourage you to take some time early next week to meet with your IR director and to map out the activities that must be completed over the semester in order to submit your focus group reports by November the 7th. So including next week, you have 9 weeks to plan the logistics out, which includes recruiting students and faculty, analyzing the data collected, and then synthesizing the findings to report it. And then that report will be shared with your leadership team. So I've listed a few logistical questions that you might want to consider. This is not an all-inclusive list, but includes things like room reservations and determining if you want to record this focus group and who would serve as the moderator or the note taker, and whether your college may want to offer incentives to participants. And then who would be responsible for synthesizing the data and writing the report. So all of those items to consider. And then we've provided a profile sheet that is in a editable PDF format, so that if you are conducting online focus groups, your students can fill this out online and submit it as a PDF form, or you can print it and have students that are present in person to complete this document. And this is not something that we need to collect. It's just to be turned in to the individual that's leading the focus group, and in order to report the aggregate data on the student report. And then I want to just give a shout out to our friends at the Center for Community College Student Engagement. We've borrowed many of their best practices for the focus group discussion guide, as well as these consent forms. So you are welcome to use these editable consent forms. They can be customized to meet the needs of your institution. So share these with your IR director to determine if these are appropriate for use or if they need to be modified for your use. You may also just use your own institutional form if that's more appropriate. So please be sure to collect a consent form from each and every participant and to provide them a copy for their records. Again, we're not turning this into the Texas Success Center. This is just for your institution. And then for the focus group reports, their templates are provided in a Word document. So we've got some feedback that some of our colleges may have gone a little bit overboard in submitting these reports in our Spring Institute. So we want to provide enough structure that allows you to synthesize a few key themes. These reports are for the benefit of your team to really consider what are some of the most pressing issues of our students that we need to think about in developing our action plan. So there's one template for the student focus group, and there's 2 templates for the faculty focus group. So depending on whether you conduct 2 or 3, you'll have 2 or 3 reports to turn in. And then I ask you to submit these to our document center by November the 7th so that your Pathways coach has time to read the reports that you provide, to reflect on it, because really they want to provide you the highest quality coaching that they can. And this will be helpful for them as they support you for action planning. So I have gone through all of my information for the advanced work and want to make a few minutes for your questions.
Christine, there was a question in the chat about the focus group. So will the colleges need to go through their individual college IRB process before conducting the focus groups?
Thank you for that question. That's really important. That's why I want you to reach out to your IR director. I think as they will be in the best position to direct you on whether you'll need to go through an IRB process or not.
And I'll just add to that, that the Texas Success Center will not make the focus group data publicly available, nor will it be, any of the information that you submit to us connected back to your college in any kind of public fashion, if that helps. All right, Christine, there's another question in the chat, and the question is, will we get a sneak peek at the team time activities again? Last time it was nailed down the perfect team time composition.
Great question. Thank you. Yes, we love to do that. We want to give you that team time work ahead of time. So we'll be sharing that with you on the 4th. In fact, I have a slide with some dates. So let me start in the middle here with advanced work. So I will post the webinar to hopefully today, the recording and the slides, and then you'll receive the advanced work package on Wednesday next week. And then you'll have until September the 7th to submit the focus group report. Earlier that week on November the 4th, the pathways leads and coaches both will receive the team strategy time document. So you'll get to see the data that we're going to share, so you can look through that and begin thinking about how you can support your team through that time. While you're looking through questions again, Christina, I guess I'll just finish the dates. So as a recap, registration is opening next week on September the 7th. The registration deadline is October the 13th. That's when we're going to release our hotel block. And then the call for proposals is now open. That submission deadline is September the 26th. We will announce and send emails to every single applicant to let you know our selections. And then one of the things that we want to make sure is that every single presenter has an opportunity to register and reserve their hotel rooms. Sometimes those presenters that have expertise in a specific area are not originally considered for the first 7, and then they are pulled into the group after the fact once they know that they're presenting. So we want to make sure that we have time for them to register, and all of the submission of the materials, including the focus group reports and that data request, are on November the 7th. Any other questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat, but I would encourage anybody to unmute and ask a question if you have it at this time.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I just want to make sure that you know that we are here to serve you as you're preparing for this institute. Sway Youngston is leading the event planning, and if you have any registration questions or other logistical questions, you may reach her at our institute's email. And then if you have questions regarding concurrent session proposals or the advanced work that your coach can't answer, please feel free to email me. I'm always happy to respond. Thank you on behalf of our entire team. We look forward to seeing you in Dallas.